Welcome to yet another engrossing film about the future of Tesla, a firm that has transformed the automobile sector and is also spearheading the renewable energy movement. The video talks about how Tesla can take over the industry by offering a subscription-based service for fully autonomous driving, FSD, which can be installed on cars and make $60 profit margins by 2030. Furthermore, Tesla's energy business is booming, with over $100 billion in sales expected in 2023 alone. The video gives you an understanding of Tesla's financial outlook and demonstrates how you may use this information to prepare for an early retirement. Before we begin, join us as we explore the fascinating world of Tesla and its prospects for growth in the upcoming years. I want you to hit the like button and become a Tesla subscriber. For FSD, a subscription-based service makes sense, while Tesla acknowledges that their data is insufficient to completely support this concept. Based on preliminary estimates, they project a pure profit margin of $60 by 2030, given that FSD is automotive software that can be downloaded. I think that by 2030, FSD will be regulated, and Tesla may have even greater profit margins. In addition, according to Tesla Energy, their entire revenue for 2022 was close to $4 billion, and they turned a profit of over $300 billion in the last quarter of the year with a 12 margin. They estimate that they will make $7.5 billion with a 12 rate in 2023 and $11.5 billion with a 13 margin in 2024. From then on, they expect to increase by 50% annually until 2030. In 2023, I believe there will be above $100 billion in overall revenue. Nevertheless, Tesla's 2023 net income would be lower due to FX currency expenditures. By paying about $1.5 billion, they estimate that Tesla will cut their net profits from over $17 billion to just under $16 billion. Again, in my opinion, Tesla's shares will continue to dilute by 2% annually from 2023 to 2030 without buybacks or dividends. They are hopeful that the entrance rates will decrease, weakening the US dollar and lowering the expenses. However, I predict that this expense will continue to rise year after year. By the end of the decade, they project that Tesla's total revenue from FSD energy and automobiles would be over $750 billion. This is a reasonable estimate, given other plans Tesla has for the future, such as its robot progressing to fully autonomous by 2030. The one-time cost should be around $30,000 in my estimation, although some would find this forecast absurd. If we go back to 2020, full-time driving cost $8,000. The cost has nearly increased to $15,000 by the end of 2022. Due to my conservative nature, I have based my projection on the average price in 2022, which is $12,500. In the following 7 years, I think the price will double once more, and by 2030, it might even go up much further. Pure profit will be generated by the FSD profit margin, which can reach up to 60%. This is due to the fact that FSD is software that can be installed on an automobile to provide self-driving capabilities. The car will be regulated and capable of transporting you anywhere by 2030. I think Tesla can overcome this FSD problem, and by 2030, I think they'll have a $38 billion profit margin. Apart from FSD, the energy business of Tesla is also flourishing in 2022. In the last quarter of the year, they generated about $4 billion in total revenue and earnings, with an absurd 12% margin. According to my prediction, they will generate $7.5 billion in revenue overall in 2023 with a 12% margin, translating into $900 billion for the entire year. With a 13% margin, I project $11.5 billion in total revenue in 2024, or almost $1.5 million. From that point on, revenue will grow by 50% annually until 2030, at which point the profit margin will likewise grow annually. Since Tesla has stated that they aim to match the revenue of the energy sector with their vehicles, which is now at 20, I'm also being conservative with my prediction, but it may be much higher. My prediction is that Tesla will generate $100 billion in revenue overall by 2023, which will be a significant achievement. It appears like Tesla has a promising 10 years ahead of it. Not to mention the impending Tesla bot and other initiatives. We're talking about over $750 billion in revenue just from their energy and automotive divisions. Of course, we have to be modest when it comes to profitability. I predict that by the end of this year, we will have earned over $17 billion in revenue, and by the end of 2030, we will have made over $170 billion in profits. However, we must take into account the FX currency expense, which will reduce our overall revenue in 2023. For instance, we will pay nearly $1.5 billion in FX currency expenses, which will reduce our revenue from over $17 billion to slightly less than $16 billion. Nevertheless, in the big picture, this won't have a significant effect. Let's talk about shares now. Between 2023 and 2030, there will be a 2% dilution, no buybacks, and no dividends. In terms of EPS, it was 4.70 in 2022. By the end of this year, I predict it will be 4.86, and by 2030, it will almost reach 47. That really is amazing. Let's now discuss the 2022 stock price. Tesla's shares fell by roughly 70 to 80% over the company's difficult year. The average price of Tesla stock was around $204 per share with a 50. It did drop to $102 per share at one point, but the fiscal year was still open, so it might fall even further. However, if you invested $10,000 in Tesla stock at that price, you would have received about 49 shares, and with the stock currently trading between $180 and $170, you might have made a respectable profit by the end of the year. In the first quarter of 2024, I predict that the stock market will end. Even if the stock stays within the 50p range, you could still make a return of 20%, which is a lot. However, I think that in 2024, Tesla stock could reach a very optimistic P/E of 65 and a stock price of $478 per share with a market cap of over $1.5 trillion. If this happens, your initial investment of $10,000 would turn into over $14,000, a return of 40%. If all goes according to plan, your initial investment would be worth more than $23,500, with a return rate of over 230%. In 2025, I projected a P/E of 60, a stock price of $650 per share, and a market capitalization of about $2.2 trillion. It's absurd that your $10,000 investment would suddenly be worth over $32,000. Tesla may divide its stock by 2026, possibly 4-to-1. I'm projecting a P/E of 55, a stock price of $828 per share, and a market capitalization of more than $2.8 trillion if we enter a significant bull market. Over $52,000 would be the current value of your initial investment, which is more than 5 times what you started with in 2027. My expectations were for a market valuation of $3.7 trillion, a P/E of 50, and a stock price of $1,611 per share. With a P/E of 35, your investment would now be valued at over $73,000, more than 7 times what it was when you first invested it in 2030. I forecast a market capitalization of more than $6 trillion and a stock price of $1,632 per share. By the time you invest $10,000, your initial investment will have grown to about $80,000, or nearly 8,000%, by the time you invest $2,300. That brings an end to our discussion of Tesla's prospects. We particularly looked at their subscription-based service for fully autonomous technology and their thriving energy sector. While some of my predictions may seem ambitious, I'm going all in on Tesla stock because of its incredible growth potential. Even if my predictions are only partially accurate, you could still see an amazing return of 40%. So those are just some numbers I've been looking at. It's obvious that Tesla has a lot of room to grow and become profitable in the years to come. Of course, there are costs to consider, such foreign exchange rates, but overall the outlook is promising. Thank you for watching, and we hope to see you in our next video.